7 years to hit your first $100,000, 4 years for the second. Same person, same savings rate, same effort. But here's what's weird. It's not the compound interest that speeds it up, it's that you're not the same person anymore. That first $100,000, it's a filter, and most people don't make it through. I've studied hundreds of people who actually made it past $100,000, and here's what nobody talks about. That first $100,000 isn't a milestone, it's a filter. It filters out everyone who wants the reward without the rewiring. Because by the time you hit $100,000, you're not the same person who started at zero. You've rebuilt your brain, you've changed your identity, and that's why the second 100 comes faster. Not just because of math, but because of who you've become. I'm going to show you the 3 brutal shifts that happen on the way to $100,000, why most people tap out before they ever get there, and how you can use this to speed up the entire process. Let's get into it. Here's the first filter most people fail. Starting feels like nothing. You scrape together $500, you open a brokerage account, you invest it, and then nothing happens. Your life looks exactly the same. No new car, no vacation, no dopamine hit, just $500 sitting in an app that you have to resist checking every 5 minutes. Meanwhile, you could have spent that $500 on a weekend trip, posted photos, got likes, felt something immediately. Your brain is screaming, "This is stupid, spend the money. At least you'll enjoy it now," and most people listen. They don't even make it past the first $5,000 because delayed gratification feels like punishment when you can't see the finish line. Here's what's actually happening. Your brain is testing whether you're serious. Think about it like this. You're at a gym for the first time. You lift weights for an hour, you look in the mirror, you look exactly the same. No abs, no biceps, nothing. That's what investing $500 feels like. You did the work, but reality hasn't caught up yet. But here's the shift. The people who make it to $100,000, they stop chasing the feeling. They start chasing the number. They realize that $500 invested isn't supposed to feel good today. It's supposed to feel incredible in 7 years when it's worth $1,000, then $2,000, then $4,000. This is the first rewiring. You trade dopamine for discipline, and 90% of people can't do it. Let's say you make it past the starting line. You've got $10,000 invested, maybe $20,000. You're feeling good about yourself. Then your car breaks down, $3,000 repair, or your friend invites you on a trip to Europe, $2,500, or you see a deal on a car upgrade, only $400 a month, and suddenly that $20,000 you've been building, it's whispering to you, "I'm right here. I could solve this problem. I could buy that experience. Use me." This is the second filter, the sacrifice phase. Because here's the brutal reality. From $0 to $100,000, most of that money has to come from you, your paycheck, your side hustle, your willingness to say no to things that feel good today. Let me show you why this phase feels so damn long. You invest $5,000. It earns 10% in a year. That's $500. You could make that in a weekend doing Uber. The market isn't helping you yet. It's basically doing nothing. But once you hit $100,000, that same 10% return is $10,000. Now the market is pulling its weight. Now compound interest actually matters. Now you can feel it. That's why Charlie Munger said the first $100,000 is a bitch. You're doing all the work. The math hasn't kicked in yet. You're pushing a boulder uphill, and most people quit halfway because they don't see progress fast enough. Here's what separates the people who make it. They become ruthless about unnecessary spending, but not miserable. There's a difference. Miserable is never going out, never enjoying life, eating ramen every night while your net worth grows. That's not sustainable. Ruthless is asking, does this actually add value to my life, or am I just bored? Example, spending $100 on dinner with your best friend who you haven't seen in months. That's valuable. That's memory building. Do it. Spending $100 on takeout 3 times a week because you're too lazy to cook. That's just leaking money. That's where you tighten up. The people who reach $100,000 figure out how to cut the waste without cutting the joy. And that's a skill most people never develop. Here's where it gets really interesting. Somewhere between $30,000 and $70,000, something flips in your brain. You stop seeing money as something to spend. You start seeing it as something that works for you. Let me paint the picture. You're at a store. You see a jacket, $200. It looks good. You can afford it. Old you swipes the card. Doesn't think twice. New you pauses, calculates. If I invest this $200 instead, in 10 years at 10% annual return, that's $518. In 20 years, $1,345. I'm not buying a jacket. I'm trading $1,345 in future money for something I'll wear maybe 20 times. This is the shift. You're not depriving yourself. You're seeing the actual cost of everything. And here's what's powerful. Once you make this shift, it's permanent. You can't unsee it. Every purchase becomes a trade-off. Every dollar has potential energy. This is what I mean when I say $100,000 is a filter. By the time you get there, you've already become someone who thinks like an investor. The habits are locked in. The rewiring is complete. All right, let's talk about what actually happens after you cross $100,000, because this is where the timeline compresses in ways that feel almost unfair. Remember, $0 to $100,000 took you 7 years of grinding. But watch what happens next if you keep the same savings rate. $100,000 to $200,000. About 4 years, $200,000 to $300,000. Roughly 3 years, $300,000 to $500,000. About 3.5 years, $500,000 to $1 million. About 4 years. You're contributing the same amount every month, but the timeline keeps compressing because now compound interest is doing serious work. At $100,000 earning 10% annually, that's $10,000 in returns without you lifting a finger. At $200,000, that's $20,000. At $500,000, that's $20,000, $50,000, more than many people's entire salary. But here's what most people miss. It's not just the math that accelerates, it's you. By the time you hit $100,000, you've built momentum. You've proven to yourself that this works. You're not questioning whether you should invest anymore. You're looking for ways to invest more. You might negotiate a raise because you know exactly what an extra $10,000 per year becomes over time. You might start a side business because you've seen what happens when you feed the machine. You might cut one more unnecessary subscription because you're chasing the next milestone. This is the discipline compound. Your habits start compounding just like your money. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Once you have money saved, your entire life opens up in ways you can't predict when you're starting from zero. A job opportunity comes up. It's commission only, but the upside is $150,000 a year. Your current job pays $60,000 steady. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't take that risk. You're locked in. But if you have $100,000 saved, you have a runway. You can bet on yourself, or maybe you've always wanted to start a business. You have the idea, you have the skills, but you need $30,000 to get it off the ground. Without savings, that business never happens. With savings, you can take the shot. This is what wealth actually gives you. Options, freedom, the ability to say yes to opportunities that could change your trajectory. And here's the twist. The best opportunities usually come with risk. They're not guaranteed, but the people with money saved can afford to take those swings. The people without money are locked out entirely. This is another way that wealth compounds. It's not just your portfolio growing, it's your access to life-changing opportunities expanding. Let me tell you what happens once you break through $100,000. The stress actually decreases. When you're starting from zero, every market dip feels like a disaster. You check your account daily. You panic when you see red. You wonder if you made a mistake. But once you've lived through a few market cycles with real money on the line, you realize it's normal. You've seen your portfolio drop 20% and come roaring back. You've experienced corrections and watched them turn into buying opportunities. You develop confidence, not arrogance, confidence. You trust the process because you've seen it work. And here's what's wild. You start to actually enjoy the journey. When you're at $150,000 and your portfolio jumps $7,000 in a month, that's exciting. That's tangible. That's a dopamine hit that's actually aligned with building wealth instead of destroying it. You check your account not with anxiety, but with anticipation. You look forward to contributing more because you can see what it's building toward. This is the final shift. The thing that felt like punishment at the beginning starts to feel like progress. All right, if you're still grinding toward that first $100,000, here's how to compress the timeline. Strategy 1, increase your income. The obvious one. Everyone ignores. You can only cut expenses so much. There's a floor, but income, there's no ceiling. This could be negotiating a raise, starting a side hustle, freelancing on weekends, picking up extra shifts. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In this phase requires hustle. You might be working 60 to 70 hours a week for a couple years. It's not forever, but it's what gets you to the inflection point faster. Every extra $500 a month you can save knocks months off your timeline, and months compound into years. Strategy 2, avoid the big money traps, the non-obvious one. Here's what kills most people's progress. The big 3 expenses. Cars. That $700 monthly payment on a car that loses value every month, that's $8,400 a year that could be compounding. Over 10 years, that's $140,000 plus in lost wealth. Buy a reliable used car. Drive it for 10 years. Invest the difference. Your future self will thank you. Housing. If you're paying $2,500 for a 1-bedroom because you want the trendy neighborhood, consider getting a roommate and paying $1,200. That extra $1,300 a month is $15,600 a year. Over 7 years, that's the difference between $0 and $100,000. Lifestyle creep. Every time you get a raise, your expenses magically increase to match it. New apartment, new car, new spending habits. This is the trap that keeps people stuck forever. The move, keep your lifestyle flat when you get a raise. Invest 100% of the increase. You were surviving on your old salary, you can keep surviving on it while your net worth explodes. Strategy 3, automate, so you can't fail. Here's the thing about willpower, it's unreliable. Some days you'll feel motivated, other days you won't. The people who reach $100,000 don't rely on willpower. They automate, set up automatic transfers the day after your paycheck hits. $500, $800, $1,200, whatever you can afford. Move it before you can spend it. You can't be disciplined with money you never see. Out of sight, out of mind. And your net worth grows on autopilot. Maybe you're watching this thinking, I'm 35 and I haven't started. Is it too late? No, but the math is less forgiving. If you start at 25, you can save $500 a month and hit $1 million by 60. If you start at 35, you need to save $1,200 a month to hit the same goal. The numbers are steeper. The sacrifices are bigger, but it's absolutely still possible. And honestly, sometimes starting late is a gift because it forces you to take it seriously from day one. You can't afford to mess around. You can't afford to waste 5 years figuring it out. Look, the first $100,000 is supposed to be hard. You're supposed to feel like you're grinding. You're supposed to wonder if it's worth it. But here's what I need you to understand. You're not just building a bank account. You're building an investor identity. By the time you hit $100,000, you've already become someone who delays gratification, thinks in decades, not days, sees opportunities instead of obstacles, chooses discipline over dopamine. That identity is what makes the second $100,000 come faster, and the third, and the path to your first million. The filter isn't the money. The filter is whether you're willing to rewire yourself. So if you haven't started yet, open that account today. If you're at $10,000, keep grinding. You're closer than you think. If you're at $80,000, don't lose momentum now. You're about to break through. The first $100,000 is the hardest thing you'll ever build, but it's also the most important because once you cross that line, you're not just wealthier, you're different. And that difference is what makes everything after this automatic.